speak.
There's a message here, Rick.
Everybody scooch down this.
It's all of us.
All right, you ready? All right. We're on the air. So away we go. I'd like to call this meeting to order, a regular meeting of the village board on Monday, December 2nd at 7 p.m. Located in the Germantown Village Hall boardroom and also can be accessed via WebEx. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with sections 19.83 and 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows all village board members present except for trustee Kaminsky, who is excused, and trustee Pieper, who is also excused. At this time, I'll ask us all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. A couple things tonight for President's Report. The first one I will turn over to Trustee Jan Miller for the date of Sunday, December 8th.
Thank you. This coming Sunday, December 8th, the Windsong subdivision will be holding its 31st annual Luminary Night. What is Luminary Night? Luminary Night is our subdivision's way of giving back to the community. We've been doing this for 31 years. Right after Thanksgiving, our food pantry at St. Boniface Church is depleted because of Thanksgiving. And we collect non-perishable food and cash donations at our front entrance at approximately a half mile off of Donges Bay, east of Pilgrim Road. And we open up the subdivision to drive through. We have luminary lights out. All of the neighbors put out lots of ornaments and lights, and it's a real delight. But the main reason it is because it is a community event, and we are trying to replenish the Germantown food pantry at St. Boniface Church. So please join us on Sunday, December 8th from 5:30 to 8 p.m. We'd really appreciate it. You just stay in your cars, you drive through, you don't have to get cold. So cash is always accepted. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that information. The other thing to report is on Saturday, December 14th, the community band will have its holiday concert, and that'll start at 2 p.m. And that is at the Germantown Performing Arts Center, which is the one located by the high school on River Lane. That should take care of all items for President's Report. We can then go to announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee and department reports with committee chairs, starting with Trustee Rick Miller.
General Government and Finance will meet in this boardroom at on December 16th at 5:30. And Public Works, since Terry isn't here, will meet this Wednesday at 5:30.
Okay, thank you for that. Trustee Hudson.
I have two announcements I'd like to make. Public Safety will meet in this room 6 p.m. on January 6th. And the second announcement is I have resigned my village board seat effective January 15th of 2025.
Okay, I'm not going to say thank you for that, but I do appreciate the update, and you will be missed, of course, and we have appreciated your service and your contribution to the village board. You've done an excellent job. Anyone else have any announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee or department reports they'd like to make note? There are no others. We can then go to citizen input. If there is anyone within our audience is joining us that would like to take part in citizen input, you're welcome to do so at this time. We would ask if you could please fill out a yellow slip with your name and address so we can get it correctly for the record. And also state it when you come to the microphone at the podium in the center of the room, so those that are at home and within our audience know who you are as well. If there's anyone joining us via WebEx, just make your intentions known so that the moderator can bring you forward at the time of the opportunity. So citizen input at this time.
Okay, oh, it's working, okay. As I'm reading the agenda tonight, I got very upset again with the closed meetings again. And the word that I don't like is called acquisition. That means buying properties, okay? And it says you're going to consider strategy, okay? Again, there's no public announcement of we are not invited to know anything. More closed sessions against the taxpayers' concern. You as a board really have no business even discussing purchasing all these million-dollar properties without even talking to the taxpayers. And this little notice isn't enough. There should have been neighborhood meetings, more transparency. The taxpayers are not informed about a lot of things as I go and talk to people. And everywhere I go, I talk to people. And we're supposed to have public meetings, neighborhood meetings, getting together to understand what our money is doing. This is our money, okay? You are included in our money. And I looked up, the residents are getting very, very upset. A lot of them don't speak out a lot, but I think we have a board that isn't as concerned about our finances as I think they should be. When I called to find out what our debt is as a village, it's $90 million, okay? And our income a year is 17,649,000. If I were buying a company, I looked at those figures, I'd take a pass, okay? I'd say something's wrong, all right? The spending is wrong. And even with the police chief, when he's retiring, you want to spend $15,000 for a consultant, and this chief has a man that he can put in that position that he's worked with for years, and we're going to consult on who to put in. That's foolishness. The residents don't like this type of debt. You're leading us, my taxes went up, and I got that report, and we lost over $1 million in tax money yearly because of the TIDs. And I hope that these acquisitions, your planning strategy on don't include that. And the money spent on all these foolish things, which you don't think they're foolish. But I'll tell you what, remember something else. We have a voting coming up in April, and the voters are going to decide if who gets reelected in April, if the positions have running mates, okay? And they want the spending to be more conservative in our system, and I feel that we need a different attitude toward the money. I don't like people taking my money. I think I'll open a TID in my little cul-de-sac and tell you I'm not going to pay taxes. We're going to remodel all our homes, okay, and not pay you taxes for 10 years and see how that goes over. That's exactly what's being done with these companies. So we're losing millions of dollars in those taxes. We shouldn't be using kids. And I really hope you guys would take this seriously, because the spending is really, some of it's just plain foolishness. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward? It's this time for citizen input.
Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. I have 3 topics tonight. The first one is contracts. We have a lot of RFPs going out for services, and we have $5 million worth of road work in 2025. All construction projects are required to be bid per state law, from what I understand. Proper procedures for receiving bids should include sealed hard copies delivered, dated and time-stamped when they're received, no late bids accepted. And all the bids should be unsealed in public and recorded at the time with the dollar amounts. There should be no pre-opening of bids. So I'm expecting that this will be the process going forward, and especially with this one coming up where we have legal services. So I'm asking that you manage the process that way. I concur with Ms. Bednar about the closed sessions. We have too many of them. One is called Strategy for Concerning Acquisition of Properties. Well, strategy is part of master planning, and we're supposed to be going through visioning processes. We had that one session, but it was kind of a limited session because we had to input answers into predefined questions within an app. So the questions were essentially steering towards certain outcomes. I did not complete the app. I used paper and I wrote a whole bunch of things down. I'm waiting for when we're going to get the feedback back from those people. We haven't heard anything about it yet. You're going into a closed session to talk about strategies for acquisition of properties in this area. I think it's a little cart before the horse. There better not be any TIDs involved. We have $120 million worth of known deferred maintenance. There's the public safety building coming up, a library coming up. Since the other departments have not completed their capital improvement plan for 5 years, we don't exactly know what their needs are from a funding within 5 years. There's no way that any public money should be put towards this. The developers can foot the bill. If you do this, and you can find money for visioning sessions, you can certainly find money to restore Parks and Rec and the library to 2023 funding. Now, over the last few meetings, there have been sort of kerfuffles between people on the board and people in the audience. Nobody in the audience is intentionally trying to disrupt any meetings. We are entitled to our opinions, and we are also entitled to quietly talk amongst ourselves, which mostly we do. Any person who's presenting information up here that may be controversial should not be surprised if people are making murmurs to each other or whispering something in their ears. It's just part of being part of this process and having an audience while you are a political entity and a governing body. You have to expect that. And threatening to have the police escort people out for talking amongst ourselves is a form of censorship. That should never have happened and never be threatened. I mean, that was a threat. So I don't think you should be talking like that to people, especially when many of these representatives do not return phone calls, do not return emails. And that is part of the reason why some of us are very angry, because we hear stories like the guy who was here about a month ago, who had all that noise because of waste management, never got a return phone call from anybody. That issue got passed around the village, did not get addressed. Finally, he came here, and thank you for taking care of it and getting the administration to do something about it. I hope it's been taken care of. I hope somebody has spoken to Waste Management. It should never have taken 3 years for that to be accomplished. So we are allowed to speak amongst ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input?
Good evening, Sarah Larson, Butternut Road. First off, Phil, I'm very sad to hear that you'll be leaving the board. Thank you very much for your service and would really appreciate if you could reconsider that. I know it's a tough choice and this is a big job, but we really appreciate your service to the community. The last meeting was focused, one of the items was the posting and a discussion about quorums. I find it rather ironic that under unfinished business tonight, there is the meeting efficiency topic. That whole quorum presentation was a complete waste of 25 minutes of the meeting probably. I did a quick little 10 or 15-minute search of all the municipalities, big and small, to see what their posting requirements are. And even for the most inconsequential meeting, they have the blanket statement there. And I feel that that whole presentation was to try and deter trustees from being informed on the whole of what the activity is. And for them to be voting on things, but not to have any awareness of the committee discussion, since there's no discussion when things are brought to the full board, that anyone could discern what the background was, and to just say, well, trust your colleagues in their discretion, well, you still have to answer to the public as to why you have voted a certain way. So you should have some base level knowledge of what that topic is before you're casting a vote. Now tonight, the two closed session items, I think they're presumptive. We were told that there would be visioning sessions, not just session. And for paying like $52,000 or $57,000 for Ranka for that very skewed presentation, don't see how you can even leap to having closed sessions tonight about the acquisition of property or negotiation strategies. It just baffles me. And I think when we talk about communication, if 57,000 can be spent on that, I think we have $2,000 in the budget to send a postcard to every resident in the community, informing them of an event and trying to get adequate participation. 50 people maybe at the visioning is not substantive feedback to say, let's go with the steered options that were provided in that presentation. So I'm asking the board to not approve anything in closed session tonight. And I think you should be questioning, okay, Bailey left Gray Wolf, and now you're talking about having her negotiate on acquisition of property. What is that compensation? Is this under her little $57,000 contract extension of Gray Wolf, or is she getting commission from that? How's the money flowing on all of this? I'd be asking that. If she's supposed to be coming up and helping you formulate the strategy for that, to then have her financially benefit from a property acquisition, sounds like a whole lot of conflict to me. And I just think, one last item. I know that you're going to talk about the administrator's performance goals tonight. Maybe one of those things you should be checking in then is that resident with the waste management issue. Truly, did someone follow up on that? The board president gave the directive for the administrator to take that on. Do we know that action was actually taken? Because I think a lot of times follow through is severely lacking on a number of fronts. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Anyone else wishing to come forward at this time for citizen input?
I was here on one of the agenda items, so I can speak then, or if now is the appropriate time.
You're here as a representative from one of the
Yes,
agenda items?
for 10B, Harder's Lakeside.
And you're the agent for Skyline, or the property owner, or the business itself?
The business applicant, Harder's.
Why don't we wait until that new business item comes up?
Happy to sit down. Thanks.
Anyone else for citizen input at this time? Anyone online?
No.
All right. Then we'll go on to the next item, which is consent agenda. Board?
Make a motion to approve consent item A through D as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve consent agenda items A through D. Is there any discussion on that motion to approve? There's no discussion. We'll do roll call vote, please.
Trustee Warren. Trustee Cutts.
Aye.
Trustee Baum.
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Hudson.
Right.
Trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
President Walter.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item under next item is unfinished business, starting with unfinished business item A, shortening village board meetings. Whereas,
I can start on that.
okay,
The In August, the village board considered some alternatives and had some discussion on methods for shortening village board meetings. The item was referred back to the General Government and Finance Committee for additional discussion and request for recommendations. GGF did discuss that and come up with 4 recommendations that are included in the memo in the packet that was distributed. There were the 4 items included. I'm just scrolling down to find that, just so I get them in the same order that I have in the memo. The 4 items included following Robert's Rules of Order, being prepared for each meeting. They're keeping the size of the village board the same. That was in reference to discussion that took place at the village board level about potentially reducing the size of the village board. And then distributing the agenda and packets for the standing committees by the preceding Thursday instead of Friday. And I'll just note that that has been the practice for the past several months now.
Okay. Anything to add, Trustee Rick Miller?
I think Administrator Krecklow summed it up pretty nice, but yeah, the General Government and Finance Committee, we reviewed several different items, and these are the 4 that we came up with. Following the Robert's Rules of Orders, I think we should have a little bit of a discussion with that, because that's not always the case when we have village board meetings. Be prepared for each meeting. That's that's self-explanatory. Number 3, keep size of the village board the same by, I believe it's by state statute. You can have a minimum of 6 instead of 8 trustees. Is that right?
You could, I mean, it might require a different process to adopt it, but you can have as many as you want.
As many as you want, but a minimum of 6.
No minimum.
No minimum.
You could make it 3 if you wanted to. You'd have to do
Didn't
what we
even
call a
discuss
charter
that one,
ordinance.
but,
But typically you default to the statute, which says 6, but you could do less if you wanted.
And
So
you
I-
have to go through an approval of a redistricting?
Correct. If you were going to reduce the number from what it is currently to anything, in short, you would do a redistricting as part of that. And typically, although I've never done it, so I'd have to rely heavily on my colleague at the Elections Commission, but my understanding generally is that the people who are currently in positions hold those positions until the end of their term unless they would step down. So you potentially could have a reduction, but not an actual reduction until terms expired, and then you would fill, moving forward based on that. But eventually you would.
Yeah, and the recommendation of GGF, it was Trustee Jan Miller, myself, and Trustee Kaminsky were there, and we all thought that 2 representatives per district was sufficient, and we didn't want to reduce that. That was the recommendation. And then the last one, Administrator Krecklow has already pointed out that we have been receiving the packets on Thursday, and I think that has been helpful, that we get them a little bit earlier. So I'll leave it up to the rest of the board.
Trustee Jan Miller?
Yeah, we had a good discussion, and these were the top 4, I would say. There were others that we discussed. And just to add to come prepared, that's on the other end of the agenda as well. The written part, where when you bring up an item, there should be an attachment. If there's data that needs to be discussed, where the expectation is to have it attached to the actual agenda so that we can prepare for the discussion. So I just wanted to add that in as well. Thank you.
Board? How would you like to proceed?
To get it on the table, I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion to approve. We'll start with Trustee Baum.
Yeah, from my standpoint, this is an issue that has only come up in the last 2 to 3 years. I've been on this board for 16 years. We've never had these problems before. The biggest problem I've seen after reviewing some videos of our meetings is people don't understand what we're talking about. The board does not understand what we're talking about. If we've been discussing a topic at 6 different meetings, 6 different meetings we've discussed it, and a trustee has to be explained where that road is. What is the road we're talking about? I don't understand what we're doing. What does the drawing mean? That trustee clearly did not understand what was being discussed, even though they sat through 6 other meetings. It is that type of thing that draws these meetings out. We spent, I don't know how many minutes bringing that person back up to speed on the issue. Last week, we had to sit through a presentation as to what our roles and responsibilities are. That should have taken place with the people who didn't understand what their roles and responsibilities are outside of this meeting. It is these type of issues that are taking all of our time and extending these meetings. That's number 2 on the list, is be prepared for meetings. If you don't understand what we're going to be talking about, get a hold of Steve Friday after you've had the packet, or Monday after you've had the weekend to review it. But it's ridiculous that we have to continue to bring people back up to speed on meetings, on topics that have been discussed time and time again.
Further discussion? Trustee Rick Miller, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to say about Robert's rules. I think everybody has some opinions about Robert's rules and how to do that. And I brought up a couple things. And number one is that under strict Robert's rules, you actually don't discuss anything until there's a motion on the table,
Correct.
right? So most of our discussion is prior to that, and then we make the motion. The other one that's probably the most prominent is that you get 2 rounds, 2 questions or 2 comments when a discussion topic comes up, and that's it, as a board member. So those are the 2 that I cherry picked out of the whole thing. I mean, there's many more rules when it comes to Robert's rules.
Further discussion? Trustee Warren?
What was the motion?
Motion was to approve the shortening of the village board meetings by taking the following suggestions that came out of GGF, and those are.
So we're approving just these ideas. I don't get the point of that. I mean, it's just a listing. I don't think things are going to change. People are going to be the way they're going to be. It's just the uniqueness of each individual. And I don't care if we had 10 items on here, it's my opinion that it's not going to make any difference.
Further discussion? Village Attorney, in regards to the following, the outline or following the meeting in the format of Robert's Rules, is that possible, or is it used more as a guide of how the parliamentary actions of the board would proceed when it comes to motion and second and discussion and amendment to motion, out of order, those types of listings that Robert Rules does very well?
Sure. So our code actually says that we follow Robert's rules, except as otherwise provided. So you would default to Robert's rules for anything as the appropriate way to handle conduct at this meeting. A couple points to that end. Number one, Robert's Rules is not designed for bodies this small. It's designed for, hundreds of members type of a body. Think the Senate or the House of Representatives at the federal level. So there are some rules that just don't make sense when you apply it here, and you just have to use your best judgment as you work through that. But when it comes to any of those rules, what was true before and will remain true regardless of how this vote goes, any member can raise a point of order and require that we follow either something within the code, because for example, the two bites at the apple provision is actually within our code as well. It's not just Robert's rules. So you could make a point of order to say either, hey, we have to follow this particular rule in this case or not, or to follow something within Robert's rules and to do that. And then there's a determination that is made by the body of whether or not you want to follow the rule that's been presented. You can always override the determination and do what you want. If there is no objection to not following a particular rule, Robert's Rules has kind of the catch-all, which is unanimous consent, i.e., if nobody objects, we're just going to keep plugging along because that's how we get business done. And so it's really on the individual members to call out issues that you want to call out. Now, that said, if there's a policy standard that we see, the two bites at the apple issue is the one that we keep hearing about at all of these meetings. If there is a desire that that's something that we want to look to have enforced, that just needs to be expressly determined by this board, and then it's up to the president to make sure that he's following that. And if he doesn't, then folks would need to call him on that and make sure that after practice you get into the swing of things and you're going to do it. But certainly in his defense, that he needs it. He's got a lot of time doing it the way that he's been doing it, so it might take a little bit for him to get used to it.
Was done in the previous administration before me, they had the following of the bites of the two apple. And one of the reasons that I didn't enforce it is because while some discussions happen or debate on the motion, somebody might bring up something that you hadn't thought about before, and it may change the discussion or your thought process on what you were deciding to do in regards to that particular issue. So I thought it closed the discussion and debate points down to a minimum to where some ideas may not be able to be proposed, and that's why I didn't enforce it. But if this body wants to go back to that, I'm more than willing to adhere to it and keep track as best as I possibly can to make sure that everybody is held to a standard of 2 comments on any discussion that comes forward from a motion. Trustee Baum.
Attorney Sajak, how drastically different would our meetings be if we strictly followed Robert's rules? I know in the past we were a little stricter, the 2-bite rule, but this says follow Robert's rules. It doesn't say get a little closer to them, it says follow them. How drastically different?
The answer is it depends. It's the lawyer answer, I know, but and what I mean by that is that if the intent is by follow Robert's rules that we want to have motions before we have discussion and have 2 comments and 2 comments only, that I think potentially has the possibility of shortening meetings. Recognizing, however, that typically that's interpreted as it's 2 times that you have the floor. So if you take 25 minutes on your first time, that's not going to help shorten the meetings. But it certainly helps with the back and forth that sometimes drags things on in terms of doing that. On the other hand, if this body decides that we're going to be hyper technical and follow every issue of Robert's rules and raise points of order every time something is not done to a T, these meetings will drag on forever as we deal with all of the various parliamentary issues that are raised, and trying to vet through what is and isn't the way that we're going to run that particular meeting. Because again, you can always overrule the parliamentarian in terms of what the rule requires, and you have to make that decision if you want to do that. So it could be shorter, it could be much longer. It just depends.
And it's my impression that it's that person who takes 25 minutes of time discussing a position, whether it's pro or con a subject, but is there 25 minutes of, is it valid discussion or is it just discussion for the sake of discussion? I'm not sure that a 25-minute discussion is going to change the board member's opinion of the topic at that point. So if there's a way we can shorten that 25 minutes, instead of you get 2 kicks at the cat, you get a timeline, is there a possibility of doing that? That's where I see the issue coming up.
I think, trustee Cutts.
Hope I'm doing this right. I'd like to call the question.
That's correct. Do we vote? I always forget that point. We vote to call the question, correct?
Correct. Call the question is effectively a motion. That would require a second, and then you vote. There is no discussion on that
Right,
motion.
so the motion is to call the question, mean to call the vote.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. No discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Opposed, raise your hands. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion passes. Call the question. We'll do, is everybody clear on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Warren,
No.
trustee Cutts,
Aye.
trustee Baum, trustee Jan Miller,
Aye.
trustee Hudson,
Nay.
trustee Rick Miller,
Nay.
and President Walter.
Nay. Motion fails. So going forward, in regards to the original issue that came forward in helping to keep these meetings to a workable timeframe, one that is positive in direction and discussion. I think the outlines of what was provided here are good and solid, and the guidance of Robert's rules as something to follow parliamentary procedure on is also a good guideline going forward as well. If you like, we can go to 2 bites at the apple back to that, if you like. But as it stands right now, I like an open debate for more points of view to come forward or different topics. I mean, there's always somebody there that brings something forward that I didn't think about. And it helps to broaden not only discussion of it, but also some people's ideas of what is correct or how their vote might be. So just something to consider going forward. But I appreciate the time taken and the discussion made on this topic. Next item is new business, starting with new business item A. Newman Developments, agent for Renwood North LLC, property owner, property south of Freistadt Road and Pleasant View Drive, final subdivision plat for Renwood North, addition number 1, phase 2 through 26, which are single-family lots.
President Walter,
Yes,
I have to recuse myself from this.
okay. To give us more background information on this new business item, we have our associate planner here, Mr. Yankee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, board. We could wait 1 second. All right, thank you for your patience. So as you mentioned, this is a final subdivision plat for Renwood addition number 1, or otherwise known as phase 2. Newman Developments, agent for Runwood North LLC, who's the property owner, is requesting approval of this final plat for phase 2 out of 3 phases. This is 26 out of 95 total single-family lots in the Runwood North subdivision. Location here, as you can see, south of Freistadt Road, the shaded white figure within the overall white lines is the 26 single-family lots of the overall Runwood North subdivision, which is part of a planned development district. The preliminary plat was approved originally in 2018, the north on the left, south on the right. South has since been completed, and as I mentioned, this is phase 2 of 3 phases in the Runwood North subdivision. Again, original approval in 2018, zoning district there, as I mentioned, single-family plan development district for the northern portion of the subdivision. It is provided sewer, sanitary sewer, and water utilities from village. And once again, this is the proposed final plat, which appeared in front of Plan Commission in October, in November, and now we're here December 2nd at Village Board. Staff comments as we went through at Plan Commission a couple times. There's a punch list of items remaining to be completed per R.A. Smith and per Public Works and our village engineer, which the developer Newman is working through, and also our village surveyor had a number of minor technical corrections on the final plat. Which actually these memos were prior to the original Plan Commission meeting, so some of the items have been taken care of since. So with that, based on the discussion at Plan Commission, the recommendation was to approve the final subdivision plat for the 26 single-family lots, subject to 4 conditions, which were listed in the packet, 1 having since been completed since the Plan Commission meeting. With that, I can take any questions, and Mr. Anderson from Newman Developments is here tonight as well.
Board, any questions?
The motion first.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the final subdivision as presented for Renwood North Addition Number 1, Phase 2 with 26 single-family units.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion or questions? No discussion? Does this also, based on your checklist, does that have to be completed before any type of occupancy permits can be granted?
Yeah, we actually conditioned, well, the answer is yes. We also have other conditions in there just for good measure, for lack of a better term, that the punch list shall be completed prior to recordation of the plat, release of the letter of credit, and or based on stipulations within the development agreement, which includes building permits being issued.
So based on that, the letter of credit is still active?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Ball.
Can you give those who have been watching this for a while the status on the berming at the eastern edge of this property?
So last Plan Commission, or first Plan Commission, October 14th. The last one was November 11th, if I'm not mistaken. From October 14th to November 11th, as we discussed with Mr. Anderson, about 1,300 feet of that 16-foot wide swath of berm had been substantially elevated for, I say substantial based on the overall 3-foot height of it. And also plantings had been planted as well since the original October Plan Commission meeting. Fast forward to now, the berm, my understanding, is mostly complete with exception of some additional plantings that the landscaper has been trying to find replacement trees. I don't know the exact count on that, but perhaps Mr. Kevin Anderson could expand on that if needed. But long story short, it's almost complete, if not complete.
Okay, so they have addressed the condition, the situation that was asked of
Correct,
us.
and it's in accordance with plan.
Thank you.
Further discussion? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None opposed? Motion carries. Oh, I'm sorry, and one recused. Thank you. Next item under new business is item B, Harder's Lakeside Disposal, agent for Skyline Development Corp., property owner, northeast corner of Fond du Lac Avenue and State Highway 145 at Spartan Court, rezone application for 12.7 acres from M1 Limited Industrial to M2 General Industrial, and a conditional use permit application to develop and operate a new solid waste disposal collection and transportation operation business. Give us more background information on this new business item. We'll turn the meeting over to our Community Development Director, Jeff Retzloff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Harder's Lakeside Property Management and Lakeside Disposal, agents for Skyline Development Corp. The property owner is requesting approval to rezone 12.7 acres from the M1 Limited Industrial to the M2 General Industrial Zoning District, along with a conditional use permit to develop and operate a solid waste disposal, collection, and transportation operation from the property located on Spartan Court in the Victory Center corridor. The property is highlighted in red on the screen. A couple of views. This angle shows the property relative to not only Fond du Lac Avenue, but further west, the Berrywood and Sunbury Woods residential subdivisions, and the commercial storage district immediately to the south. And there's another B2 commercial district across the Fond du Lac Avenue at the Spartan Court intersection. This property was also part of the former TID number 4 for the village. Again, the proposal summary includes 2 applications: a rezoning application to rezone 12.7 acres from M1 to M2, and a conditional use permit application. The conditional use permit would be for a trucking operation with a daily fleet dispatching for the garbage and recycling collection services provided by Lakeside for both residential and commercial customers, and the storage and maintenance of garbage and recycling carts, roll-off dumpster rentals, and their overall fleet of vehicles. Development of the site is proposed over a 3 to 5 year period in 3 separate phases. This graphic shows the phase 3, the build out of the site. Phase 1 would happen immediately. It would include a partially fenced gravel storage area for trucks, employee vehicles, dumpsters, it would include a temporary job trailer and a portable restroom. Up to 10 trucks and dumpsters would be kept on the site, and the hours of operation would be from 3 a.m. to 6 p.m. in the evening. Phase 2, intended for 2025 to 26, would include expanding the gravel storage area, construction of a just under 14,000 square foot metal office and maintenance building. It would include up to 50 trucks and dumpsters kept on the site, a 57 employee parking area, and the hours would include 3 a.m. to 6 p.m. for the fleet truck services and 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. For maintenance services. No activities would be conducted during 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. unless emergency services were required. Phase 3 from 2028 to 2030 would include a further expansion of the gravel storage yard area and fencing, construction of a just under 10,000 square foot building addition, and the overall site would contain or hold up to 100 trucks and dumpsters on the site, and a separate parking lot with 93 stalls would be constructed as shown close to Fond du Lac Avenue. Again, the hours of operation would be from 3 a.m. to 6 p.m. for the fleet truck services, 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. for maintenance services, with no activity from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. other than emergency service activities. These images were included in the application packet and show an existing lakeside facility. The building concept is comparable to what would be proposed here. In terms of the 2050 plan, the preferred land uses are commercial for the Victory Center corridor. Those are the desirable uses. Other allowable uses do include industrial uses, and as specifically stated in the Victory Center corridor, Mixed-use areas with commercial, institutional, and residential development are also allowed, with industrial uses being acceptable in those areas currently zoned M1. And as I indicated, this particular property is currently zoned M1 Limited Industrial. The subject property is actually comprised of 3 parcels totaling 12.7 acres in area. All of them are zoned M1 Limited Industrial. One of the parcels is dedicated with a stormwater basin. Other staff comments, the proposed use is not allowed in an M1 district. It may be allowed as an unclassified use with a conditional use permit in another zoning district if this use is comparable to other uses in that particular district. And in this case, staff believes that the only other comparable use is that in the M2 General Industrial District, and being the solid waste disposal, collection, and transportation operation, similar to what is proposed. However, this particular property is not suitable for intense M2 industrial uses. That's better suited for commercial uses that are less intense, consistent with the Victory Center corridor and the M1 limited industrial zoning district. Further, staff feels that the property is not suitable for rezoning to M2 because of the proximity to the existing residential uses to the west, and also that the proposed use is very similar to the existing waste management fleet maintenance facility on County Line Road, and in staff's opinion is likely to have the same or similar impacts on the surrounding areas, including noise and traffic. I would also would like to read from the staff report. This is the intent section from the M2 district. The M2 industrial district also permits those activities generally perceived as being of a nuisance nature or considered to be hazardous. All uses in this district must meet state of Wisconsin industrial standards as well as performance standards set forth in section 17.47. Such districts should not normally abut directly upon residential or commercial districts. Further, staff believes that the wetlands and utility easements that across the property further limit the developable portions of the property and the site flexibility as far as locating the trucks and vehicles further into the site and buffering them from the surrounding residential areas. Following the public hearing that was held on November 11th and the following discussion and consideration by the Plan Commission, the Plan Commission recommendation included the following. First, the Plan Commission determined that the proposed use is equal to the waste management facility operation on County Line Road that is located in an M2 district and is similar to the landfill and solid waste disposal and recovery uses allowed as a conditional use permit in the M2 district under section 17.34. And for that reason, the Plan Commission also is recommending denial of the request to rezone the 12.7 acres from M1 to M2 and to deny the conditional use permit application for the proposed operation. And before you this evening is to take final action on both the rezoning application and the conditional use permit application. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman earlier that came up during public input, would you like to come forward at this time?
Thank you, President, members of the board. I am Brian Randall, attorney with Amundsen Davis, 111 East Kilbourne Avenue in Milwaukee. I'm a zoning lawyer and I have been retained by Harder's Lakeside Disposal. Mike Toon is here. That's T-H-U-N for the clerk's minutes. Mike and I did appear at Plan Commission last month. Honestly, Jeff gave a very comprehensive staff report right now, so I'm not going to repeat a lot or really anything of what he said, other than to recognize that we heard the village is open for business. There were a couple of citizen speakers. I think even a trustee spoke in a citizen capacity, and then a couple of the board members on the Plan Commission. This is a family-owned business that is currently based in Utzberg, Wisconsin. It is in a growth mode, as Jeff explained. Our vision for this site was a multi-phase, multi-year development to bring jobs to the village in a site that apparently is outside of the tax increment district, and to have the developer invest in the village and bring jobs. So it was good to hear that the village is open for business. What we thought was a perfect site, surrounded by a lot of industrial, surrounded, or at least on our east, with railroad tracks that are generating noise, and is also dictated by our site plan, pushing all of our operations to the rear of the site, really was a perfect home for Harder's Lakeside here in Germantown. The use, to be very clear, is a truck maintenance facility. And the four-letter word, or the two-word phrase of waste management, we heard that a lot at Plan Commission. I've heard it tonight. As I looked at the staff report tonight referencing that conditional use permit, waste management is on a 41-acre site with the facility everyone says is the exact same. I guess they have compressed natural gas feeder systems for their trucks. They have 41 acres. They're next to some of the landfill operations north of us. I know they have a transfer station. We are not any of that. We have storage for trucks and dumpsters. And then in the future, when the buildings are built, a small office and a maintenance operation. So we know that maybe there have been issues with waste management. What we're actually here tonight to ask for, in recognizing meeting efficiency and some of the other goals you all have, is we'd like you to hold it or send it back to the Planning Commission. Give us time to work with staff. Give us time to at least look at our plan and perhaps compare it to waste management. Maybe run our truck on this site to see if it can even be heard from the residences to the west. A lot of that information was new to us. I became involved about a month ago, and we know that there might be a way that we can refine our operations plan. So that's what Mike Toon asked me to say this evening. He is interested in the site, is under contract to buy it, but we feel like there might be some more homework that we have to do, and we would confer with village staff before we would go further. And so we would ask you tonight to either hold this or to refer it back or refer it to staff. But a denial tonight really is a tough message for us to hear, and really the end of the road. Happy to talk about comp plan, happy to talk about your zoning code, but really that's not my intent tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion. We postpone discussion on this item and send it back to Plan Commission.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on a motion to postpone? No discussion? Okay, if you can come to the podium and just state your name.
Hi, I'm Dana Zulik, 609 Scenic Road in Colgate. So I was listening, I'm just confused. Is it a solid waste processing center, or is it simply just where the trucks are going for the roll-offs and you're going to be picking up the stuff and taking it to licensed facilities? Yeah, I think that's all I was wondering, because it was a little confusing. So.
All right. No further discussion? All those in favor of postponing, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for coming tonight. Next item under new business is the Village of Germantown Community Development Department. We have proposed text amendments to Chapter 17.41, Accessory Use, Buildings and Structures, Section 17.43, Site Plan Approval Requirements, 17.45, Traffic, Parking, Loading and Access, and Section 17.46, Signs of the Village of Germantown Municipal Code. Give us more background information on this new business item. We'll turn the meeting once again over to our Community Development Director, Jeff Retzlaff.
Thank you, Mr. President. As summarized in the summary sheet and staff report, there are 10 amendments that are generally updating and housekeeping type amendments. Amendment number 1 to section 17.41 clarifies language regarding the size and number of accessory buildings allowed in residential zoning districts, and also specifies what type and size of accessory structures are exempt from regulation. Amendment number 2 updates application submittal requirements for site plan applications to match the current review process. Amendment number 3 updates the landscaping plan requirements to match the current site plan approval process. It also creates a requirement that landscaping plans be consistent with the policies and standards in the village's recently adopted comprehensive tree plan. And it deletes a provision that exempts landscaping plans from the requirement of 17.43, the site plan application requirements, if a development is located in a tax increment district. It's being proposed for deletion simply because the TID project plans that we have adopted over the years do not typically include any detailed landscaping plans that can be followed by subsequent development. So the preference is to put that requirement on the individual site plans for development within those increment districts. Amendment number 4 clarifies pavement requirements. It also amends the minimum width requirement for the green belt required around parking lots from 8 to 15 feet and allows the Plan Commission to determine if a wider green belt is required given characteristics of a property and or the type of landscaping that is required. Amendment number 5 clarifies the requirement for the number, the setback, and separation between driveways. Amendment number 6 clarifies what facade or building elevation wall signs are allowed in the commercial zoning districts. Amendment number 7 clarifies the requirements for ground signs in the commercial zoning districts. Amendment number 8 simplifies the calculation of sign area, maximum height, and minimum setback requirements for ground signs installed for commercial properties. Amendment number 9 clarifies the reader board ground sign requirements for commercial properties. And amendment number 10 clarifies what a non-conforming sign is, how it can be used, and what restrictions apply. It also creates a provision that allows the Plan Commission to consider non-conforming signs as part of the approval process for new signs. Following discussion, consideration of those items, the Plan Commission recommendation is to approve the proposed zoning code amendments as drafted.
Board?
Make a motion to approve the amendments to the village code.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Trustee Jan Miller?
Could you go back to the First Amendment, please?
I'm sorry, which one, the first?
Yep. For one. So this, the first item says clarifies language regarding the size and number of accessory buildings allowed in residential zoning districts. So it is all about, this amendment is all about residential districts and not commercial?
Yes.
And so my question is, if this amendment is on the within the village code, if there is a subdivision that has an HOA, does the HOA supersede the village code?
Yes, it does, frankly. The HOA, the developer can adopt covenants and restrictions that apply and would create an extra layer of regulation that while the village isn't responsible for enforcing or administering, frankly, we do ask. And if we know of a subdivision that has an HOA with covenants that are adopted, we strongly encourage the property owner to talk with their HOA and present their proposal. And in most cases, there's an actual approval process through an HOA for that sort of thing.
All right.
That would apply only to where the HOA is more restrictive. If the HOA's covenants are less restrictive, then our code would apply.
Understood. So
good point.
Does the, you don't say how many you have. Is it based on the size of a lot? How do you regulate how many buildings are allowed?
In the zoning code, there's a table that
Okay.
identifies each of the residential zoning districts and specifies the number of buildings that are allowed and the size.
Okay. Right. That's what I wanted to know about the HOA. So you answered my question. Thank you.
Further discussion? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
One opposed. Motion carries. Next item under new business is renewal applications for secondhand article and jewelry dealer licenses for 2025.
I can briefly summarize this. We do have three renewal applications for secondhand article dealers, secondhand jewelry dealers, one for Kessler's, second for National Rarities, and the third for Eco ATM Walmart. The applications are included in the packet.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on a motion to approve? No discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None opposed? Motion carries. Next items on the agenda, E, F, and G are listed for closed session, starting with item E, strategy concerning acquisition of properties in the village's village center district in the general area of Mequon Road and Pilgrim Road. The village board may convene in the closed session per Wisconsin State Statutes 19.85 subsection 1 subparagraph E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and then may reconvene into open session to take such action as it deems appropriate. Item F, contract with Copeland Companies with respect to acquisition of properties in the village's village center district. The village board may convene in a closed session per Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, subsection 1, subparagraph E, for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and they may reconvene into open session to take such action as it deems appropriate. And new business item G, administrator setting 2024 performance goals update. Village board may enter into a closed session per Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 subsection 1 subparagraph C for considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and then may reconvene into open session to take such action as it deems appropriate.
Make a motion to go into closed session for items E, F, and G. For items E and F, we will have the village planner and Ms. Copeland. And do we need Maddie? Or
No, the village clerk could be excused. We also have Phil Cosson from Ayler's joining us by phone.
okay, and Phil Cosson by phone, and the village clerk can be dismissed.
And the village attorney and administrator.
Village attorney, administrator.
And F?
That's my motion.
Yeah.
Oh, F,
I think the village attorney.
As for E and F?
yeah, that's for E and F. And then for G, the planner can leave and Ms. Copeland can leave, and we're just gonna, and the attorney can leave.
Correct.
Yes,
And Mr. Etzler.
I said that.
Oh, okay.
I said the director.
All right.
And are we having Steve in for the session, performance goals?
Yeah, it's an update.
Oh, another update.
Okay.
That's my motion.
That's a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion. We'll do roll call vote, please.
Trustee Warren, trustee Cutts,
Aye.
trustee Baum,
Aye.
trustee Jan Miller,
No.
trustee Hudson.
Aye.
Trustee Rick Miller
Aye.
and President Walter.
Aye. Before we go into closed session, the next village board meeting will be on Monday, December 16th at 7 PM here at the Village Hall Boardroom. Thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you all for watching, and have a good night.